Sauron is one of the most powerful beings in Middle-earth, yet he barely fights. He does not ride into battle, command from the front, or clash with heroes, and still, entire civilizations collapse before him. Because Sauron's true power was never his physical form, it was his servants, armies bred for war, creatures engineered for terror, kings twisted into wraiths, each one an instrument of his will, spreading his shadow across Middle-earth, from the deepest caves to the black skies above Mordor.
My master, Sauron the Great, bids thee welcome.
These beings carried out the Dark Lord's domination. Some were monsters, some were rulers, some were once wise. Together, they made Sauron a threat no army could ignore. Today, we descend through the ranks of that darkness, counting down the servants who shaped the fate of Middle-earth. Before we get into it, I have a small request. If you like my content, support me by subscribing. It's a small click for you, but it means a lot to me.
Orcs!
10. Goblins of the Misty Mountains. Long before Sauron's armies darkened Mordor, another breed of malice festered beneath the roots of the world. Deep within the Misty Mountains, the goblins carved their kingdoms into stone, a labyrinth of tunnels, forges, and echoing halls where cruelty was law. In the films, they surge from the shadows as shrieking, twisted figures, but their menace lies beyond their appearance. These creatures represent one of the most persistent strains of evil in Middle-earth. Adaptable, numerous, and perfectly suited to life in darkness. Unlike the vast war hosts of Mordor, the goblins are creatures of ambush and confinement.
Let them come. There is one dwarf yet in Moria who still draws breath.
Their strength is not open conquest, but terrain. They thrive where light fails, where travelers vanish, where even seasoned warriors lose their advantage.
Who would be so bold as to come armed into my kingdom?
The Goblin Town sequence reveals this unsettling truth. An entire society built on scavenging, raiding, and relentless industry. Weapons are hammered, prisoners are mocked, and survival belongs only to the vicious. Though often overshadowed by orcs, goblins are closely tied to the same corrupted lineage, shaped by Morgoth's ancient malice and later folded into the dominion of darker powers. They are not mere cave dwellers, they are an extension of the Shadow's ecosystem, flourishing wherever fear and chaos can be cultivated. In Sauron's grand design, goblins serve a subtle but vital role. They infest the hidden places of the world, turning mountains into traps and roads into risks, ensuring that even far from Mordor, darkness is never far away.
The age of men is over. The time of the Orc has come.
9. Orc Armies of Mordor. When people think of Sauron's power, they picture the eye. But on the battlefield, that power had a face, and that face was the orc. The Orc Armies of Mordor were not a scattered rabble. They were an engine of war, forged in the furnaces of Barad-dûr and bred in vast pits beneath the ash-choked plains.
Move into the city. Kill all in your path.
These soldiers were conditioned for obedience and brutality. Their armor is crude but functional, their discipline enforced through fear. At Pelennor Fields and before the Black Gate, they move as a tide, countless, relentless, expendable. Unlike the goblins of the Misty Mountains or the Uruk-hai of Isengard, the Mordor orcs are Sauron's core infantry. They form the backbone of his strategy, hauling engines of destruction across the plains, releasing coordinated storms of arrows and slamming into defenses with merciless persistence. They are not elegant warriors, nor individually formidable, but they do not need to be. Their strength lies in numbers and organization. What makes them terrifying is not skill, it is scale. They overwhelm defenses, exhaust resistance, and grind kingdoms down through sheer persistence. Under Sauron's will, they become more than creatures of malice. They become a system, an industrialized force of darkness designed not for glory, but for conquest. 8. The Easterlings. Not all of Sauron's servants were monsters born in darkness. Some were men, and among the most feared of them were the Easterlings. From the vast lands east of Mordor came warriors who marched beneath Sauron's banners, bound not by corruption alone, but by allegiance, fear, and long-standing alliances with the Shadow. In the films, they appear as disciplined soldiers clad in heavy bronze armor, their ranks moving with chilling precision across the Pelennor fields. Unlike the chaotic brutality of orcs, the Easterlings fight like a professional army, organized, relentless, and loyal to their cause. Their presence reveals something important about Sauron's strategy. His power was never limited to creatures twisted by dark magic. Entire nations of men had fallen under his influence, whether through promises of power, ancient loyalties, or the simple reality of living under the Dark Lord's looming presence in the east.
Who are they?
Wicked men, servants of Sauron.
On the battlefield, the Easterlings bring something orcs often lack: discipline. Their formations hold firm, their spears advance in unison, and their warriors fight with the confidence of trained soldiers rather than expendable beasts. In Sauron's vast war machine, they represent a different kind of threat, not mindless destruction, but organized conquest. Proof that the Shadow could command not only monsters, but the loyalty of men.
No matter what comes through that gate, you will stand your ground.
7. War Trolls. Where orcs overwhelm through numbers, trolls bring something far simpler: raw destruction. Towering over the battlefield, these creatures are living siege weapons. Thick-skinned, immensely strong, and nearly unstoppable once unleashed, trolls were bred by the forces of darkness for one purpose: to break whatever stood in their way. In the films, their presence is unmistakable. Massive forms crash through the chaos of war, swinging clubs, tearing through soldiers, and smashing defensive lines that ordinary troops could never breach. Some of the most formidable among them are the war trolls of Mordor, known as the Olog Hai. Armored in heavy plates and chained into service, they are driven forward like battering rams. At the gates of Minas Tirith, one such beast even wields a colossal hammer to shatter the city's defenses. A reminder that in Sauron's armies, even monsters are tools of strategy. Trolls are not clever warriors, nor disciplined soldiers like the Easterlings. But intelligence was never their purpose. Their role is shock and devastation. When a line of men faces a charging troll, courage alone rarely holds. Within Sauron's vast forces, trolls serve as the blunt instrument of war, creatures whose sheer size and strength can turn even the strongest fortress into rubble.
Send out your Warg riders.
6. Wargs. Before the clash of armies, before the walls are breached, Sauron's war often begins with the hunt, and few hunters in Middle-earth are as relentless as the Wargs. These are no ordinary wolves. Larger, more cunning, and driven by a savage intelligence, Wargs serve as both mounts and predators within the armies of the Shadow.
Bring your pretty face to my eyes.
In the films, they surge across the battlefield alongside orc riders, their speed turning them into living weapons. But even without riders, wargs are deadly, tracking, surrounding, and tearing apart anything that strays too far from safety. What makes them truly dangerous is their role in war. While orcs and trolls dominate the battlefield, wargs control everything around it. They scout ahead of advancing armies, harass retreating forces, and run down fleeing enemies without mercy. There is no outrunning them, no hiding once they've caught your scent. Unlike the brute force of trolls or the rigid discipline of men, wargs embody something more primal. They bring chaos, speed, and fear, striking where defenses are weakest and vanishing before a counterattack can form. In Sauron's strategy, they are the teeth of the hunt, ensuring that no enemy escapes the Shadow's reach. 5. Fell Beasts. High above the battlefield, where no army can reach, Sauron's most terrifying weapons take flight: the Fell Beasts. These creatures are not merely mounts, but horrors in their own right. Winged, skeletal, and utterly unnatural, they descend from the skies like living nightmares. In the films, their arrival transforms the battlefield instantly. The air itself becomes hostile as they sweep overhead, their piercing cries spreading panic through even the bravest ranks. What makes the Fell Beasts so devastating is the advantage they bring. From above, there are no walls, no formations, no safe positions. They strike where defenses are weakest, snatching soldiers from the ground or scattering entire units in moments. Under their shadow, order collapses into chaos, yet their true power is revealed through those who ride them. The Nazgûl, already beings of pure dread, become something far worse when given dominion over the skies. Together, rider and beast turn fear into a weapon that falls from above. In Sauron's armies, the Fell Beasts ensure that nowhere is beyond reach, not even the sky itself.
My master, Sauron the Great, bids thee welcome.
4. The Mouth of Sauron. Not all of Sauron's servants fought with blade or claw. Some wielded something far more unsettling: his voice. The Mouth of Sauron stands as the Dark Lord's herald, a man who has given himself so completely to the shadow that his own identity is all but erased. In the films, he appears at the Black Gate as a figure both regal and grotesque, his twisted smile and hollow words carrying the weight of Sauron's will. He does not threaten with force, but with certainty. What makes him dangerous is not strength, but manipulation. He speaks to break morale, to plant doubt, to turn hope into despair before the battle even begins.
I have a token I was bidden to show thee.
His display of Frodo's belongings is not proof of victory. It is psychological warfare, designed to shatter the resolve of those who still resist. Unlike orcs or trolls, the Mouth of Sauron represents control through fear and deception. He is living proof that the Dark Lord does not only conquer through armies, but through the mind, weakening his enemies long before the first blow is struck.
They are the Nazgûl, ring wraiths, neither living nor dead.
3. The Nazgûl. Long before the war reached its final battles, Sauron's most feared servants were already hunting, not as men, but as shadows, the Nazgûl.
And 9 rings were gifted to the race of men.
Once kings of men, they were given rings of power and slowly consumed by them, their bodies fading until nothing remained but wraiths bound entirely to Sauron's will. In the films, their presence is unmistakable. The world itself seems to recoil as they draw near. Sound fades, light dims, and fear takes hold long before they are seen. What makes the Nazgûl so terrifying is not just their power, but their effect. They do not simply fight enemies, they break them. Armies falter, courage drains, and even the strongest hesitate under their gaze. Their piercing cries alone can send soldiers into panic, turning order into chaos in an instant. They are hunters above all else, relentless, patient, and impossible to reason with. They pursue their targets without rest, guided by a will that is no longer their own. In Sauron's arsenal, the Nazgûl are not just weapons. They are instruments of fear, ensuring that long before his armies arrive, resistance is already beginning to collapse.
The one
They say no living man can kill.
The Witch-king of Angmar.
2. The Witch-king of Angmar. Among the Nazgûl, one stands above all others, the Witch-king of Angmar. He is not only Sauron's greatest servant, but his most feared commander. Once a king of men, he fell to the power of the ring and rose again as the lord of the Nazgûl, a figure of pure dread whose presence alone can alter the course of battle. In the films, his arrival signals something more than war. It signals collapse.
What of the wizard?
I will break him.
As he descends upon Minas Tirith, even the strongest defenses begin to crumble under his assault. What sets the Witch King apart is authority. He does not merely spread fear, he commands it. Armies move at his will, and even other servants of Sauron fall in line beneath him. His power is both physical and psychological, capable of breaking warriors in combat while shattering morale with little more than his presence. And yet, his legend is tied to something even more unsettling: prophecy. No living man could kill him, a truth that only deepened the terror surrounding his name. In Sauron's vast hierarchy, the Witch King is the embodiment of inevitable doom, a servant who does not just fight wars, but ends them.
Build me an army worthy of Mordor.
1. Saruman. At the height of Sauron's power, his most dangerous servant was not a monster, nor a wraith, but a wizard. Saruman the White was once the chief of the Istari, a being of wisdom, knowledge, and authority sent to oppose the Shadow. But unlike the others, Saruman did not fall through force. He chose a different path.
I will find the ring and kill the one who carries it.
Frodo.
Studying the arts of the enemy, he began to admire them, and in time, to imitate them. In the films, his betrayal reshapes the war entirely. From the Tower of Orthanc, he builds his own army, breeding the Uruk-hai, forging weapons, and waging war not in secret, but in open defiance of Middle-earth. He does not serve Sauron as a slave, but as an ally, seeking power for himself, while aligning with the Dark Lord's purpose. What makes Saruman so dangerous is not just his power, but his mind. He understands strategy, manipulation, and industry. Where orcs destroy, Saruman creates systems of war, efficient, calculated, and relentless. In the end, he stands as Sauron's most unsettling servant, not because he was made by darkness, but because he turned to it willingly, proving that even the wisest can become instruments of the Shadow. Sauron never needed to fight. By the time his enemies faced his armies, the battle was already lost. Orcs overwhelmed, trolls shattered, the Nazgûl broke the will to resist, and Saruman proved that even the wise could fall. Each servant, different in form, carried out the same purpose, not just to conquer Middle-earth, but to break it from within. Because in the end, the Dark Lord didn't win through strength. He won by making others fight for him. That was Sauron's true power. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and if you want more deep dives into the mysteries and monsters of Tolkien's world, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you on the next one.